clearMDM is a master data management tool built natively for the Salesforce platform. When it comes to master data management solutions, there are two typical primary areas of functionality. Firstly, master data management itself, and in that respect, we're talking about deduplication, identification of a master record, maintaining relationships between master records and source records, and ensuring ultimately that a customer or a product or a custom object record is represented once and once only. Thereby, the operational view of the system is dealing with a clean data set and only one record to manage and to augment for each individual customer. The second area of functionality is about the 360-degree view, and that is about being able to consolidate all of the operational insight, all of the enterprise or organizational intelligence about a customer or a product or an entity into and onto that same single record. So, when we are supporting a customer, or we are selling to a customer, or we are interacting in any way with a customer, we're able to see all of the information about that customer in one place. And in many cases the detail is sufficient. In many cases, aggregates and statistics and analytics can be drawn from the broader view of the customer to make support, sales, operational decisions as efficient, as effective as they can possibly be. In this video, I'd like to demonstrate how some of those capabilities are delivered by the clearMDM product. So what we'll do is open a person account record within this particular org, and here we can see that this record has no MDM status. It hasn't been processed as such. There are no related ERP customers or e-commerce customers, or indeed purchase transactions. Now, by way of explanation, we have within this environment a custom object for ERP customers, a custom object for e-commerce customers, and equally a custom object for purchase transactions. So the kind of flow here would be that an ETL tool would load the ERP customers, any changes or new records that are occurring on a periodic basis into the custom object. For ERP, equally the same process for e-commerce. So those master records would be loaded in, and the MDM processes would take those records and merge them into either existing master records or perhaps even create new master records in the person account object. But you can see here that because we're looking at the person account in Salesforce, if we could imagine this is the master record, then we'd be able to see very clearly in native data structure terms the ERP customers that this particular person account represents in our CRM system. Equally the same for e-commerce. And purchase transactions, again, this is where we would start to see that consolidation of transaction level detail coming through to deliver that fully complete 360-degree view of this particular person account. So let's start to see some of these things in action. So firstly, we'll go and find some matches for this person account across the system. We can see there's a number of matches have been identified using the matching rules that have been defined. So we'll just save those matches because I want to proceed through into the merge side of things. So we'll save those matches, open up the match record group. You can see all of the different records here that have matched and their matching status is being accepted because they're high score matches that we have here. So if we now Open the merge capability. Again, you should note that this is the manual side of the product. More typically, the matching and merging and so forth would be batch processes that would be running periodically and providing that clear, deduplicated 360 view on a overnight basis, perhaps, such that every day the operational view is as clean as possible. So we'll take. I think we'll leave this as it is. We'll maybe, for the sake of example, we'll tweak the phone number slightly, add a manual override here. What I'm also going to do is run the reparenting jobs. What I want to do is not only merge the 1, 2, 3 source records with the person account. What I also want to do is reparent any purchase transactions that exist for those records, such that when I'm looking at the master record, I can see the full picture. So I'll just run the merge operation. Take a second. The record's merged successfully. That's great. Also notes that we've triggered the reparenting jobs. It gives me a nice convenient link across to the jobs page. And we can see here reparenting is running. Very small record volume, of course. But what we'll do at this point is, if we jump back to the person account, first thing we can see is the merge operation has set the MDM status of the person account record here to merge master. We can see the last merge date has been updated there, so we always have an ability to report on activity, what are the operations doing, what the records affected, and keep, from a data stewarding perspective, keep very tight control over how the record life cycles are being applied by the product. But when we talk about 360-degree view, here we can see the ERP customers that now are linked to our master record. We can see that this source record is a merged source. We can also very clearly identify the account link. So we've built that relationship that is bidirectional in that sense, in that the source records have a child relationship back to the master record. And here's the e-commerce customers, but it's bidirectional in the sense that we've been able to copy the identifiers for the source record. So 1, 2, 3 identifiers, we can see them in here. The idea of this is that, well, in some cases it may not be appropriate or desirable to actually hold the source records on the Salesforce platform. We may wish to import them via an ETL tool, run MDM operations against the data, standardization, matching, merge, and so forth, but then perhaps flush the records and delete them so we don't carry any overhead. And in that world, it's still important to understand how the master data, how the master records relate to records held in external systems. And this field here is essentially providing that. It's a concatenation of specified identifiers from source records into a source system ID field. So this is just an arbitrary field we've selected in the configuration. And I'll come on to show the configuration behind this in a moment. But ultimately, it's key to understand that we have two options. We can keep it transient, bring the source data on platform, process them, delete them. Or we can retain the data on platform. And because it's retained in its native format, it has meaning in this sense. We haven't diluted the value of the data by standardizing it into a predefined format. We still understand records as ERP customers and e-commerce customers, and they have that strong definition of how that data is viewed outside of the platform. So the next thing we can have a quick look at here is, well, here we have a number of purchase transactions that have been reparented to the master record. So there was no previous relationship to those purchase transactions, but we can see during the reparenting operation, we now have a list of purchase transactions that have come through. So two very key, I guess, elements of the 360-degree view is being able to understand the source records that the master record represents. It's about understanding the ability to bring through attributes from source records onto the master record. And then finally, it's about saying, well, okay, we need to be able to consolidate the transaction level detail onto the master record. So I don't need to drill through. I don't need to navigate record to record. I can see everything in one place. So again, back to the business value. Operationally, I want to see everything in one place against one record. So I can then start to build out my cases, my sales, my pipeline, my whatever else, reports, analytics, against a clean set of deduplicated customers that are as intelligent a view as the organization has about their customers. I say customers here, the nature of the product allows it to work the same way for products and for custom object records and so on and so forth. One final aspect of the 360-degree view is the ability to start to aggregate transaction level detail up to the master record as well. So here I'm going to build a custom rollup. So in the settings area of the product, custom rollups, we'll add one in. We'll call this, for want of example, annual revenue. The target object we'll select. We'll use the standard annual revenue field here, just for example, for convenience. So I'm going to pick a purchase transaction relationship. This is the relationship between the person account and the purchase transactions. We could pick an aggregate function here, so we're going to sum the values from the amount field. So this is going to, in a very similar, consistent fashion to the way that roll-up summaries work on the Salesforce platform. This is essentially providing that very same behavior, but this works for lookup relationships. It doesn't require a master detail relationship. And finally, the child record inclusion field name. So this is looking for a formula field on the in this case the purchase transaction object that returns either a true or a false. And this allows me to be selective in terms of whether records are part of the aggregate calculation or not. But we'll just save this annual revenue custom rollup, and the way the rollups work, they are exposed as a job, so we'll just run this straight away. So the rollups aren't calculated in real time in the same way a rollup summary field would be. They're calculated through a job, so that could be run periodically through the day. It could be something that's only required at the end of the batch processing overnight, perhaps. But let me just refresh that. We'll hopefully see this run through fairly quickly. So while that runs, the custom rollups are not limited to one per object. We can calculate multiple aggregates at the master record level. Here we go. So this should run through fairly quickly from here. It is limited. This functionality is limited to numeric fields at this point. So it's summary aggregations, it's min, max, average, and so forth. It doesn't work for date fields in the current release. It may be the case that is added in. Okay, so that process has run through, perfect. So if we now again go back to our master record, here we can see it's calculated the annual revenue at 550 euros, and yeah, that is the sum of the fields that we had there. So a very basic example, but hopefully that provides an illustration of the 360 view, or the components of the 360 view. It's attribute level values coming through onto the master record. It is the ability to look between master record and source record and understand those relationships in a meaningful way. It's the ability to parent transaction records directly to the master record in an automated fashion as part of the MDM processing. And then finally, the ability to apply aggregation, calculate statistics from the transaction level detail, that consolidated view, and deliver meaningful KPIs, meaningful analytics at the master record level. And all of this is automated. All of this is native functionality of the clearMDM application.